forget it's supposed to. Super Bowl. Man. You see me? My nigga, you see me? Man. Yeah, I noticed it. Yeah, I noticed it. I've been focused in, tuned in, locked in, ready to make shit happen. Realizing what really is my final destination, it won't be surprising. Plenty, abundance, nigga. This isn't about buying Fendi or Prada, my nigga. It's much more than that. Abundance to give back the knowledge, trying to give the game to the youth. Like I bought a Xbox, trying to give the game back to the youth, my nigga. It ain't really for me, and it might not be for me to catch the glory on this one. But I feel the journey that I'm on, not paralleling, but maybe like similar to God's son. I ain't talking about Nazir Jones. I'm Super Bowling in this bitch all alone, nigga. In my zone all alone, nigga. Please believe I will be celebrating in the end zone, even if I'm alone, my nigga. Even though I knew it took a team. Even though I knew it took a special team, but I feel like I just returned the punt, my nigga. When I recite this, man, I reach another level. I feel like I'm high, like I done hit the blunt, my nigga. Shit. See me? You see me? Super Bowling completely, nigga. Man. Completely, nigga. So.
Analysis complete.
And then you look at me. Yeah.
But are you strong enough to point that high-powered perception of yourself? Why don't you look at yourself and write down what you say? Maybe you're right.
So let's stand up and give a very warm welcome to Seth Godin, our closing keynote.
Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right.
Getting all verklempt here. Thank you so much. This is a really special group, and I'm privileged to know Barrett and privileged to be here. I got to talk about golf for just 1 minute, and then we'll get to good stuff. Can we agree that golf is the worst spectator sport in the world? There's not a lot of golf in Boise, which is a good thing. It's a bad sport for two reasons. Nothing good ever happens. And the second reason is because if something good does happen, you're not allowed to wildly, raucously applaud. So just to show you what I mean, do the worst, measliest, quietest, wimpiest golf applause you can imagine. That was terrible. Thank you. Can you double it? Double it again. And one more time. Beautiful. Thank you. That is what we do for a living. That is the essence of our work. You cannot cause somebody to start being interested. But what you can do is amplify it and connect it and amplify it and connect it. And that is the work of the craftsperson. So I grew up in Buffalo, right down the street from the Roycrofters, a guy named Elbert Hubbard. And Elbert, who started it, was the original craftsperson. He lived at the time when industrialism was happening everywhere. And he showed up as a writer in the arts and crafts furniture movement, a publisher, putting ideas into the world. He wrote one of the most popular books ever written called A Message to Garcia. And what he understood that a lot of people at the time didn't, that a lot of people today don't understand, is that most people think we have to address all the external stuff, the strategy and the tactics and the do this, do you have any quick tips? And if we do that enough, it'll be a lever to help people change their internal narrative. But in fact, what we're really doing as independent craftspeople, as people who are trying to make a difference, is we are addressing the internal, and along the way, people become enrolled in getting the tactics taken care of. That what is amazing about the people in this room is that ahead of almost everybody else, you figured out that the system has changed. And understanding that the system has changed is critical. So I would never as much as Sarah Peck, but I was a swimmer. And when I swam, I would swim really hard, 16, 32, 64 laps. And you'd find me on the deck exhausted when I was done. And years later, I went for a master swimming class, and Coach Bill Boomer saw me do it, and he said, you know, maybe you're doing it wrong. And when this video started spreading around the internet, I immediately grabbed it. Here's a bunch of bikers in Italy riding downhill on fixies. And the rider who's in last place discovers that everyone else is doing it wrong. And that biking is actually a system. And that pedaling harder might not be the answer. And making one more video or posting one more email or interrupting one more person might not be the answer. So the essence of what I want to talk to you about for the next 40 minutes starts with this. Professional wrestling is fake. Now, most of you knew that, but a few people just heard it for the first time. And once you know professional wrestling is fake, you will see it differently from now on. And I want to help you see some other things differently. That the internet helped us understand that if, like me, you grew up with bats and dinosaurs, this is what you think a bat looks like. But if you turn him upside down, he turns into a total badass. Here are 3 bats getting ready for bed, but in fact, they're at a cocktail party. And once you see bats this way, you can't unsee it. So this ability to see clearly what's going on, to see bubbles before everybody else does, to be able to call it and show up with what you need is hard. Because most of the time we don't see things clearly. Other people see a blank slate, say, what should I do? The world has changed. The system is new. But those bikers, they're saying, what do I already know how to do? What do I already know how to make? So you are living right through the death of the 500-year-old book industry. Gutenberg, 500 years, end. That it's going to be like vinyl records, right? That vinyl records were perfect. That if you were in the record business in '74, you had to make money. Because if you played it a lot, it would wear out. You have to buy another one. You loaned it to your friend. You didn't have any more. You have to buy another one. You get in the car to buy another one. You went to a place called a record store that existed to do nothing but sell your product. And there was the radio and everything else. We all know what happened. It went from perfect to impossible in just 5 years. Every record ever recorded available to any human on earth who wants it, who has a smartphone, for free. The music industry is toast. There's more music than ever before, but the industry is over. So the systems that we are playing in are changing faster than anyone realizes. And you're showing up nibbling on one little edge of it. But there's a blank slate here. And the question is, what are we going to do with it? So you grew up, and if you have a boss, you're hearing it every day, the same 4-letter word. More market share, more students, more sales, more emails, more interruption, more revenue, more revenue, more revenue. This leads to mass marketing, which means average products for average people, except maybe Pop-Tarts. But all these other products were designed to be average, because if you want to mass market and interrupt the masses, you better have something the masses want to buy, which is average. Average stuff for average people, which led to this whole mass marketing thing, which is problematic. This picture's really fuzzy. I had a bad cold when I took it. But if you look at the blue box in the upper middle center, that brand manager spent $100 million interrupting us, all of us, $100 million on coupons and shelving allowances and TV ads and magazine ads. Why? Because she was hoping that we would buy the blue box, and that once we bought it once, we'd keep buying it and she'd earn back all that money. Well, I did what you do. I buy the yellow box or the generic. I don't even know what that blue box is. Doesn't matter, because I don't have a pain reliever problem. I solved my pain reliever problem 20 years ago. And most of the people you are trying to reach with your product or your course or your movement don't have the problem you are trying to solve, or at least they don't think they do. So they are not paying attention. They're clicking, they're moving on. It's been said that the average internet consumer today has the attention span of a goldfish. And so what we're doing, if we want to reach lots of people, is we're treating our customers like goldfish. But they're not goldfish. They're humans. And by dumbing down everything and yelling about everything and putting in front of everyone and seeking average, we're just making it worse. We're not helping anybody because we're treating our customers like goldfish. So this is a picture of my hotel room last night at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's the 500 on whatever's Capitol. No, I didn't take this last night. I think this was at the Hyatt a couple weeks ago. It doesn't matter. This is a hotel room at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's dark, like all hotel rooms are at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're all the same. Because for 50 years, the hotel industry got taught it's all the same. Hyatt, Hilton, they all start with an H, doesn't matter, right? And it worked because they advertised so much. They interrupted us so much until sort by price showed up. Because on sort by price, sort by distance, if they're all the same, I'll just take the close one, I'll just take the cheap one. And that's going to happen to every digital good that's aimed at the masses. Just give me the cheap one, they're all the same. Because they're all average, they're all aimed for the masses. So the marketer who says, I'm going to find some poor schmo, all poor schmoes, and assault them over and over and over again with Facebook ads and banner ads and pop-ups and pop-unders, so until one day they buy from me, is in for a rude awakening. Because humans are saying back, I don't want to hear from you anymore. When I invented commercial email, we had a 75% open rate and a 37.5% response rate to the emails we sent. How are you doing? Right? What happened in the last 20 years? What happened is people got a remote, and they're not afraid to use it. That we have branded ourselves to death, and people are saying, I don't want to hear from you. And we've solved most of the shortages, right? Not the important shortages of people being mistreated or not having water in some places, but like the dreaded yoga pant shortage. Fifth Avenue, New York City, 20th Street, it's the yoga district. There are 6 stores where you can buy yoga pants within 2 blocks. And right around the corner is the camera district, where there's more than 1,000 different kinds of cameras you can buy. And right across the street is a store that will sell you more than 100 kinds of phones. And then you can pick out your smartphone, and if you want, pick from an unlimited number of insurance policies. And so what's happened is clutter's gotten more clutter, because in boardrooms around the world, they say, well, up and to the right. That's what we want. Get us up and to the right. And that leads to compromise. How do we reach more people? How do we get more average? And so, it's bad news time, and I'm aware that it's bad news time. I'm aware that if you have bet on the old system, you could say, who has designed this future? Didn't someone read the instructions? And I agree that for people who are into the old system, this is bad news, right? That you're just not going to be able to interrupt yourself into success. So now I can move on to the good news. The first piece of good news comes with bad news associated with it, which is that everyone in the world can engage with you now, which means that everyone in the world is also your competitor. That what we've done is turn the neighborhood into the world and the world into the neighborhood. That changes things. So I now want to shift gears and talk just for a minute about some statistics and understanding that you're going to need to really visualize what I'm talking about. So this is a simple graph. What I want you to do, please, first, just to practice and make sure everyone knows how to do it, raise your hand. Perfect, beautiful, put it down. Everybody in this room who is between 5'4" and 5'9" tall, raise your hand. Yeah, that's this group right here. About 2/3 of you, you're in the middle of the curve. Everybody here who's under 5'3" or so, raise your hand. That's you folks over there. And everybody who's over 5'10" or so, raise your hand. That's you guys over there. This is the normal distribution. This normal distribution applies to a huge number of things, right? That you can look at the standard deviations down below. Don't worry about that. The point is that in any population, you're going to find this same sort of curve working. So now let's try it one more time. This time, if you have a smartphone and you bought one between, I don't know, 2 years ago and 8 years ago, raise your hand. It's just about everybody, 2/3 of you. If you have a smartphone and bought it within 6 months of Steve Jobs announcing it, raise your hand. That's a few of you. And if you got your smartphone in the last 18 months for the first time, raise your hand. A few laggards. Again, it's exactly the same curve. And what we have to understand is that when you're going to the market with whatever you're selling, everyone doesn't care. Everyone isn't choosing to pay attention. Everyone isn't that kind of person. It's just these people who go first, the early adopters. These people still have a 12 flashing on their VCR, right? And so if you've been so seduced by this mass market mindset, you're going to be confused for a long time to come. I want to argue that there are multiple steps of what we make when we make something that's important as craftspeople. The first one, the home run, the one where we must start is where you sell something that transforms the people that you are touching, that creates identity, that makes them loyal to what you're doing. You know what loyal means? They'll pay extra when they have a choice that they really have trouble differentiating. The second thing that happens if you do that is some of those people will tell their friends. And then the third thing that happens if you do that, you change the culture of a group. And I'm going to be touching on all these things as we go. But there are two things under this line that we got to talk about, because those are the ones that people talk about all the time that I don't think are as important. One, that you're targeting new people. Targeting is a hunting term, by the way. And that you're thinking about mass. And most organizations that get in trouble don't see the system, that's the first thing we talked about, and don't understand that there's two groups here. The stuff above the line, where magic happens, and the stuff below the line, where you're merely annoying. Okay, so back to these basic ideas of how the system has changed. One of them is this, that bowling only works because of how far apart the pins are. And that, in fact, if you move the pins 1 inch closer to each other, you'll roll a strike every time. And if you roll the pins 1 inch farther away from each other, you'll never roll a strike. And that this idea of understanding the linkages and the connections between one another has to be at the heart of what we're going to do to grow our organization and to grow our movement. The second thing, fancy feast gourmet cat food is not for cats. It's for people. Because if it was for cats, it would come in mouse flavor. That what they do when they sell us something is they tell us a story. And in this case, the story is you are a good person because you are feeding this to your cat. I'm not saying you should eat the stuff. You're buying it for your cat. But you are the customer, and the story resonates with you. You have no idea if yellowfin tuna and shrimp recipe with wild rice and gravy tastes better or worse than chicken and beef feast in gravy. I don't know why the tuna isn't a feast, but the beef is a feast. You have no idea. And the same thing is true of what people are going to think about the craft that you make or the course that you create or the thing that you are trying to build, because they don't know if it's working until after they use it. But the story about it is where they engage. So we show up, each of us, as Sarah said, starts something. Why? Because we want to make something special. We want to make something we're proud of. But you know what happens over time? Because we have committees, because we have people who are putting up with us, because we go to conferences and people talk to us, we make it a little bit more normal. We make it a little bit smaller. We make it a little bit more average. And we say, that's okay because Google will find us. That's okay because we'll be on Facebook. That's okay because if people want the other kind, they can go and get it on Amazon. But these three companies are preying on everyone who's making things less special and making things more average by taking a little bit more of people's attention and a little bit more of all the clicks. And if you're not number one in this search and you're not showing up over there, you're invisible. And the only people who are left are the people who have rejected this mindset of, I'll get noticed for free, and instead embrace the fact that they're going to get noticed because they're special. And the only way to be special is to not be average. And the only way to not be average is to ignore almost everybody and to make it for a few people. The third big challenge is this. There's a lot of pressure to lower your price for a couple of reasons. One, because it feels generous. It's not. We talked about story a little bit. And second, because other people are lowering the price of their average stuff. And so we think, I'll just lower it a little bit. Or some wise guy says, no, just raise your price. But customers aren't stupid. Why would they pay extra for the same thing? The only spot is to be the only one. When you're the only one, the one and only, the one with no replacement, then you got a shot. Because sort by price is the bane of your existence. These are computers for sale in Russia. Sort by price. These are coffins for sale at Costco. Sort by price. Sort by price is a game you will never win. So you have to figure out why you're going to win because someone didn't bother to sort by price. And the way you're going to win is totally surprising. By targeting the smallest possible audience. Not the biggest possible audience, the smallest possible audience. The smallest possible audience doesn't mean one person. It means the smallest you can live with. Because if you target the smallest audience you can live with, it will be ignored by your competition. You will be delighting those people with a special thing that they can only get from you. And then the bigger stuff takes care of itself. But we begin, and we come back to at the end of every day, what's the smallest possible group that I can do my best work for? And what is, was that a question? One? No, okay. So we ask ourselves then two questions with everything we make. Who's it for and what's it for? Who, because it's not everybody. And what? What is the change I am seeking to make? Because if you're not seeking to make a change, what exactly are you doing? Which then brings us to this conversation we need to have about how we tell people our story. And ConvertKit kicks in here, as do lots of other things you do. There are two ways to get married. The first way to get married is to go on Tinder and swipe right on every single person until someone says they will marry you. I am told this is a stupid way to get married. The other way to get married is to go on a date. If it goes well, go on another date with that person, right? Wait till the third date before you tell them you're out on parole, and then you meet their parents, they meet your parents, you get engaged, you get married. That's called permission. The privilege of talking to people who want to hear from you. Not the right, the privilege. Now, I'm not the prime minister of permission marketing anymore. I retired from that role years ago. But here's how you can tell if you have permission. If you didn't send that note tomorrow, how many people would contact you and say, are you okay? If you didn't put up that blog post, if you didn't send out that announcement, if you didn't put that thing into the world, would they miss you if you didn't show up? If the answer is no, then you don't have permission. You are merely being tolerated. But if you have permission, now you have an asset. And that asset is priceless. It is the priceless asset of attention. So now that I have your attention, and I'm aiming at the smallest possible market, I can treat different people differently, which is possible at scale for the first time in human history. Then if you look, there's the bell curve again, the one we just talked about. What you've been taught is to aim for the middle, because that's where most people are. Aim for the middle. But here's the thing. You're small enough you don't have to aim for the middle. Plus, the curve is melting. Bit by bit, day by day, you're giving people a choice, they're taking a choice. The curve is melting. So, if you're into Jamaican polka music, you can listen to Jamaican polka music. By finding people on the edges, not in the middle, you're finding people who have chosen to care. The people in the middle don't care. That's why they're in the middle. They're happy in the middle. That's why they chose to be there. When it comes to, pick an item of clothing, belts, I'm in the middle. Just give me a belt. I don't care what belt. When it comes to little technological gimmicks, I always have the coolest one because I'm on the edge. So I care. So you don't have to yell at me. You just have to whisper. Because I have a problem. I know I have a problem. Maybe you can help me solve it. So you're not going to persuade someone this dress is the wrong color. You're not going to talk somebody out of what they already believe. What you can do instead is go to the edges and find people who want to be found, to make stuff for weird people. Because these products, for example, were all invented for the weird people, for the edges, for the people who were thirsty. That's where you begin, over and over and over again, at the edge, with the interested people. So if your motto, even in unspoken quiet moments, is, you know what, you can choose anyone, and we're anyone, you are doomed. Because lots of people are anyone, and they're better at being anyone than you. Remember that different people hear things differently. They see things differently. You're not going to change the way they hear or they see, not at first. But you can earn their attention by going where they are. Okay, moving forward a little bit. At the Monterey Aquarium and at Williams-Will East High School, what they teach people is to fit in, to follow the leader, to comply. That's why we invented school. To teach kids to get a job, to do what they are told. It was invented by industrialists. And one of the tools we use, particularly against women, but against everybody, is one phrase. You know what? You're not as good as you think you are. You're getting uppity. What right do you have to teach this course? What right do you have to do this? What right do you have to do that? And what we've got to figure out is how to adopt a completely different posture. It's a posture that says, it might not be for you, but if it is, here I am. And then we've got to figure out how to get the word to spread. So quick way to understand word spreading. First guy with a fax machine. What exactly did he do with it? What you have to do when you get a fax machine is tell everyone you know to go get a fax machine so you can send them a fax. Bob Metcalfe invented Metcalfes Law. He's not shy. And Metcalfes Law says the power of any network is the square of the power of people on it. It's the opposite of Fight Club. Right? The first rule of Fight Club is no one talks about Fight Club. First rule of Metcalfes Law is let's talk about this device because we'll come out ahead. So that thing you're making, does my life get better if I tell other people about it? Because if it doesn't, why on earth would I tell anybody else about it? You don't have to pay me to tell people about it. You just have to make my life better if other people have it. That's how you heard about Twitter. Not because Jack ran some TV ad on the Super Bowl, but because someone on Twitter said, please follow me on Twitter. Because their life would get better if you used Twitter. So it's this difference from I'm thinking about funnels to I'm turning my funnel into a megaphone by handing people something they can talk about. This is what I call the purple cow. The transition from one more cow in a field of cows to, oh my goodness, that's a purple cow. What would I do if I saw a purple cow? I'll tell you what I would do. I would tell other people. That's the definition of remarkable. Remarkable means worth making a remark about. And I used to be the Prime Minister of Purple, but I'm not anymore. But I can tell you the simple rule. The simple rule is, if someone else decides it's worth talking about, it's remarkable. It's that easy. That's the definition of remarkable. And this is really scary. It's scary because you got taught don't fly too high. You got taught not to get uppity. It's scary because we live in a country where this is a real sign. Who else's risk are you supposed to play at? Exactly. We live in a country where there isn't nearly enough grit. The grit to say, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I don't stand for that. The grit to say, maximizing profit is not my goal. The grit to say, I will put my name on this, and if you don't like it, I'm responsible. The grit to fall down and skin our knee and get up and do it again. And the grit to not be average. Because average, when you add them all up, it's nice, but it's not beautiful and memorable. What we remember are the edge cases, the thing that's alive, that's bubbling, that's real, it's human. Because we got tons of non-human choices. Do you know who made the Heinz ketchup in your fridge? You don't know, and you don't care, because you just want average Heinz ketchup for the average hot dogs at the average barbecue. That's what it's for. But as humans, what we seek is kamiwaza, the Japanese term for godlike, myth-like, the way the gods would do it. And the irony, of course, is that the most godlike thing we can do is be human, to be present and to show up in a way that people note because we're aware of it, we're mindful. You know, this beautiful cat running through the jungle, I don't think he's saying to himself, did I leave the oven on? Or, my instructor told me to keep my head up. Is my head up? Full Jaguar, running fully in it. Is it cheetah or Jaguar? Probably a cheetah. Full cheetah, running fully in it. When George Nakashima, what a craftsman, made furniture, he wasn't worrying about the critics. He was worrying about what he saw. When Frank Lloyd Wright designed this building in 15 minutes on the back of a paper bag, he did not say to the client, what changes would you like me to make? Let's do a needs analysis. Tell me what you don't like. Why don't you and your wife think about it? He said, if you wish, I will build this for you. Take it or leave it. I'm making a piece of art here. Again, back to that feeling in our head. If you're afraid of flying, don't look at this. These are 747s coming in for a landing at Heathrow. And they're dangerously and dramatically off course. So each time the pilot turns around, flies back to Dallas, and starts over. No, not what happens. What happens is they adjust. The pilot adjusts. That's her job, to adjust. We do it wrong until we do it right. And it's cheaper than ever to do it wrong until we do it right. And that's the magic of always be testing, right? That's the magic of the internet world we live in now. We do it wrong until we do it right. So back to what this audience wants from you. I'll share 2 words that they want from you, or that you want from them. The first one is a word you might hear if you're visiting a Zulu tribe, which is sawubona. Sawubona means, I see you, I hear you, I am with you. We are present together. Is there anything the people you serve want more than that? If they are learning something from you, it is so that they can be seen. If they are buying from you, it's so they can be seen. Because it's about their self-esteem, their status, their presence as a human. And the second one is enrollment. Because these folks are on a journey to learn something from you. We can't do education to people. We can't do education at people. We can only do them with them. How is it that the kid who's bad at math knows the statistics on every single player on the baseball team? Because they're enrolled. It's not being done at them. It's something they want to do. Because we live now in a connection economy. It's the connections that we are building, the assets that matter, that create value. Matt Ridley famously said, no one on earth knows how to make a computer mouse. Nobody. You need a team. Metallurgists, plastics, software, hardware, supply chain. Together we can create innovation. So this economy, it's based on coordination, trust, permission, which I mentioned, and the exchange of ideas. All of us are smarter than any of us. That's why this conference is a good idea. Not because I'm here, or Sarah's here, Nicole's here. It's because you're here. That's why it's worth it, because you know something she needs to know, and vice versa. But all of this is dependent on two surprises, things that are really hard for people outside this room to understand: generosity and art. Generosity, because why would we connect to a selfish person? Why would we connect to a faceless corporation? And art, because that's what we call it when a human being makes something that might not work, something generous, something important. That's what art is. Artists don't view the world through scarcity. They view it through abundance, unlimited opportunities to connect, unlimited opportunities to make a difference. And so, if you show up to people and say, I don't have that much in the box, and if I give it to you, I won't have it anymore, that's a scarcity mindset. But if you show up to someone and say, I don't have that much in the box, but if I share this, we'll both have it, that creates all the virtuous cycles, which leads us to the idea of tribes. Invented 5,000 years ago by Charlton Heston. Tribes are groups of people who share a vision and a goal and a costume and a way of talking and a way of being in the world, right? Tribes. We grew up with 3 tribes in our lives: a spiritual tribe, if you're from New Jersey, a work tribe, and a community tribe. But now these tribes are everywhere. So you've got, I don't know, the Red Hat ladies in 500 cities around the world having a couple drinks over lunch and getting uppity. You got the Red Hat guys. These guys pay $15,000 to enter the Ironman in Hawaii, a race they know they're going to lose. Why do they go? They don't have water where they live. There's a ton of water in Boise. Why do they go? They go because the other Red Hat guys are there. And that's irreplaceable. It's not digital. These Red Hat guys who train all year round for the big day. The White Hat guys, I don't get these guys, but these guys I get. 50 years this has been going on because it means something. I cried when Leonard Nimoy died, and I'm not ashamed to say it, because it's part of who we were and are, and it's for some of us. It's not for all of us. So here's a quick way to establish what I'm talking about. Go ahead. Okay, stop. 6 seconds. That's the Idaho record. One group took 28 seconds to clap in rhythm. I was sweating bullets. But they figured it out. Everyone figures it out. How did you know at which rhythm to clap? I made no eye contact. I didn't go 1, 2. How did you know? Some groups have a fast cadence, some a slow. How did you know? Because we like doing what other people are doing. We like being in sync. Not with everyone, but with the people around us. Look around. Is anyone in a prom dress? Anyone in a tuxedo? How did you know what to wear? Was there a memo? Right? Some of us wish there had been a memo, because then it would have been easier. So this idea means that there's a role here for you. You get to be the ones who communicate, who connect, who commit, who build a culture, who are clear, who challenge people to go to the next level. That's open. It's open for anybody who wants to take it, who cares enough to take it. You don't have to invent the group. The Beatles didn't invent teenagers. They just showed up to lead them. Bob Marley did not invent the Rastafarians. He just showed up to lead them. So now if someone asks me to describe marketing, I only need 7 words. People like us do things like this. Do you know who your people like us are? Do you know what the things like this are? An easy way to remember it. Almost nobody has a Suzuki tattoo. And if you think about a nonprofit, walkathons don't raise that much money, but they work. And the reason they work is because if you look to your left, you look to your right, people like me are supporting a charity like this. So next week, it's even easier for me to help. People like us do things like this. Okay, so coming around full circle. Sort of sad story to kick us off. Every year until recently, 4 million dogs and cats in the United States were killed. Killed within 24 hours of being found on the street by the SPCA and the Humane Society. 4 million. My friend Nathan Winograd went to work at the SPCA of San Francisco. He was not in charge. He had no budget. He had no authority. He saw this. He hated it. But he decided to do something instead of just wringing his hands. So he went to the city council. His proposal was voted down. Instead, he went to the people of San Francisco, but not all of them, just the weird ones. Not all the weird ones, just the weird ones who wanted to listen to him. The weird ones who wanted to listen to him who were people like us. And in fewer than 100 days, Nathan Winograd had enough money, and more important, enough commitments from volunteers that San Francisco became the first no-kill shelter in the United States in a city. Not one healthy dog or cat has been killed since that day in San Francisco. And he has exported that message to more than 100 major cities around the world and plenty of non-major cities that are adopting this movement because one person said, "Follow me." Follow me. That leadership comes with this territory. You didn't think that's what you were signing up for, but that's all you got if you want to grow. It's all you got if you want to find and lead a tribe. So the system keeps telling you, no, just do what you're told. Quick show of hands. Raise your right hand as high as you can, please. Thanks. Now raise it higher. What's that about? Everybody holds back every time because that's what you got taught to do. You got taught to do that by your 3rd grade teacher and by your coach and by that boss and that other boss. Because if you put everything into it, they're just going to ask for more anyway. You know who doesn't hold back? Artists. Right? That David Mamet doesn't say, "Oh, I got a great line, I'll save it for a future play. I'm not getting paid enough for this play." That Jackson Pollock doesn't say, "Oh, this brushstroke, I need that one for later." That school taught us to fit in because what they wanted us to do is be compliant. School helped us understand what management is, which is not leadership. Management is telling people what to do, getting them to do it faster and cheaper than yesterday. Leadership is saying, "We're all enrolled in this journey, let's go over there. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to get there. Let's go over there." We have a leadership shortage, and it's related to art. That for 1 million years, the way we fed ourselves was by hunting. That's where humans got food. Only 10,000 years ago did we invent farming, brand new. And farming was soon supplanted only 300 years ago by jobs. By going to a guy and saying, "Tell me what to do and pay me money." It's brand new. 1600, Europe, unemployment was 0 because there were no jobs. And I want to argue we're headed back there really fast. That the good jobs can't really be jobs. That they're going to be art. And what do I mean by art? So let's just fly through this really quickly. By art, obviously Marcel Duchamp, Nude Descending a Staircase. Obviously Pablo Picasso. Clearly Jackson Pollock. This is art. A human being doing something that might not work, that connects us and draws us closer. But did you know that Jackson Pollock had a brother? Charles Pollock was a painter, not an artist. He painted just like his teacher, Thomas Hart Benton. He was a copyist, not an artist. And we have too many copyists. But it's not about painting. Joseph Beuys was an artist, worked in felt. Bill Shakespeare worked in words. Richard Serra, an artist who created sculptures that weigh 1 million pounds. Yes, clearly art. But Marcel Duchamp, also an artist, puts an upside-down urinal into an art exhibit in 1917, causes a riot. This is art. Not art is the second person Who puts a urinal in an art museum? They're a plumber. And that's the thing that I worry about at an event like this, because there's a lot of people who would like to do plumbing. Tell me all the steps, give me the steps, give me the steps, I'll go do what you did. That's plumbing. We don't need more plumbers. A year and a half ago, I went to Shenzhen, and in Shenzhen, the city where they make every smartphone in the world, is a little village called Dafan. And in Dafan, they paint 1/3 of all the oil paintings produced in the world. And you can go there and find almost anything you want. The Mona Lisa, $29. But it's not $29 because it's not the Mona Lisa. It's a copy made by a plumber, made by a copyist. There's no win there. So the question I'll ask you is your best work. It might take 10 minutes, it might take a day. What is it? What's it for? As we started with, as Sarah pointed out, what it's for is to make change happen. That's our best work, to change people. And change has an ugly little brother, and his name is tension. The tension of it might not work. The tension of I'm a fraud. The tension of I don't know what I'm going to do if it doesn't work. They always go together. So yes, you can ask me for a map. You can ask me for step-by-step instructions. You can ask me for one more case study. I can't give you a map, even a fictional one, because if I gave you a map, you would be a plumber. That we live in a country where this is a real book, where people pay money to learn how to raise invisible sheep without making a mistake because they want to be competent. But competent is no longer scarce, right? That if I can write it down, I can find someone cheaper than you to do it. That's why they invented Fiverr, right? That we've seen the video for the free hugs movement, and it's sort of clever and funny. This guy hates the free hugs movement because he worked really hard to be in the expensive hugs business. Guess what, folks? The internet doesn't care. And if they can figure out how to make your stuff for more people cheaper, they will. So what are the bottled water guys supposed to do? Make it wetter? Because they taught us all, it's all the same. Pure means all the same. I mean, they tried this, but it didn't work. The answer, it turns out, is kryptonite. Kryptonite is what makes Superman interesting. This might not work. We're teetering on the edge. We might grow wings on the way down, as Kurt Vonnegut said. So you listened when the internet showed up. It said, who wants to speak? Here's a microphone. And now it's saying to you, who wants to innovate? And if you're saying, I'd love to innovate, but failure is not an option, I need to remind you that neither is success. Because all innovating is failing and failing and failing until you find the next thing that works. That's the chance we have. The way to think about it is, the guy who invented the ship also invented the shipwreck. And you can decide if you want to get on board or not, but there is no shipwreck-free journey, not if you want to do art, and that's really good news. It's really good news because most people are afraid to get on that boat, and you are not. So the obligatory Italian phrase, Salto Mortality, the dangerous leap, the leap into the void. The idea that we can throw ourselves off and grow wings on the way down. That moment of leaping is exactly when we are the most alive. But what you will tell yourself as you're doing it, if you're being honest, is it's too soon. I need more proof. Someone else should go first. Well, when Gutenberg launched the printing press, there he is again. 94% of the people in Europe were illiterate. He should have waited until everyone knew how to read. There were no bookstores. He should have waited till Barnes & Noble got to Berlin, right? That when Mercedes launched the car, it was against the law to drive a car. He needed a letter from the king for his own invention. And there were no roads, and there were no gas stations, there were no all-night drive-through liquor stores. He should have waited. So the thing, my fellow artists, is this. There's a huge difference between being ready and prepared. All of you are prepared, but none of you will ever be ready. Or the other way around, whichever way you want to think about it. Because what it means to be ready is to be sure it's going to work. You can't be sure it's going to work. Because we live in a culture where people are watching videos like this. Right? There are no videos online of people successfully riding a bicycle because it's not that interesting. So we say to ourselves, uh-oh, it's not going to work. So I need to show you the end of the first video. After the biker passes all the bikes, he comes to the guy on the motor scooter who's leading the parade. And like all good ideas, it gets all frothy for a while, And then other people start to notice what we're doing, and it starts to spread through the bell curve. And then the next thing you know, and so what that means is you're going to have to do it again. You're going to have to invent the next thing. Sorry, because it doesn't last. Purple cows get gray. That what we got to do is say to that voice in our head, we got to ignore that voice that's heckling us, that says, don't do it, an alligator's going to bite you, you're going to fall off a cliff, a shark's going to eat you and land on your house. We got to ignore all of that, realize that Icarus was invented to keep us in line, and understand that there's something else that's possible. So I've had some really great photos in my presentation, but this is my favorite one. This is from the Solvay conference. It happens every 3 years. They invite physicists from all over the world. 1927. Here we go, 29 people in this picture. You may recognize, there's Albert and Marie, Niels Bohr. It's said Heisenberg was in this photo, but it's uncertain. All we know is that of the 20, thank you. All we know of the 29 people in here, 17 of them won the Nobel Prize in physics. And almost all of them won it after the photo was taken. You didn't get invited because you won the Nobel Prize. You won the Nobel Prize because you got invited. Solvay, anybody? Look around. You've all got the tools. The people outside this room don't have the tools. You all see the system. You all understand what it means, right? So here's the challenge that we have to understand. And the last story I'll tell you. There used to be a flight from White Plains to Boston, and I had an office there. So if I drove, I'd get stuck in traffic, and I'd curse the whole time, thinking that I should have flown. And so one day I flew. There was no TSA at the time. Breezed through. I get to Boston in 29 minutes. It was a big win. On the way back, there was fog, which for some reason is unexpected. And they circled the White Plains Airport till we ran out of gas, also unexpected. Made an emergency landing in Albany, New York. Pilot comes on and says, it's 10 o'clock at night. We're in Albany, New York. Yeah, I knew that. We're going to be on the ground for 2 hours, maybe 3, but I think I can get you back to White Plains by 1 a.m. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I open my laptop. I do a quick search. I have a little modem, which was pioneering at the time. And Avis has 1 car left. They close in 5 minutes. I booked the car, 4-door, 4-seat car, pay for it, close my laptop, stand up, turn to the audience. Everyone's an audience. Turn to the passengers on the plane, say, ladies and gentlemen, I am not a psychopath. I am wearing a tie. My car is in White Plains. I think yours is too. It's an hour and 20-minute drive. I just rented a car. I got 3 empty seats. Who wants a free ride home? No one raised their hand. As far as I know, they're still in Albany. And I had the whole ride home to think about what had just happened. I was in my tie. And then I realized what it was. If you stay on the plane, it's United Airlines' fault. If you get off the plane, it's your fault. And it wasn't worth it for the story in their head for them to get off the plane. So this is the challenge. The challenge for these leaders in this room. Are you going to be able to encourage other people to get off the plane? But in order to do that, are you willing to get off the plane, to own this, to say, I made this? There is no doubt in my mind that you're going to be successful. You're already successful. As my friend Shalene says, that's not the question. The question is, will you choose to matter? I think you will. Thank you for your attention.
Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up.
Static selector. Static selector.
Cold Bibles, hot nights. Long stories make for perfect conversation on the long. Yeah.
Only 0.4% of the Earth's mass has been explored by humans. Although human life has existed for the past 200 millennia, the place we call home is still very much an enigma. It is the voyagers who dare to push past their mortal boundaries that are able to unravel the mysteries of the earth. The Voyager's ripstop nylon shell cuts through the wind as he darts swiftly across the flatlands. Speed is crucial in this exposed environment. Danger lurks in every crevice. He must reach the water before sunset if he's going to make it through the night. Prism technology protects the Voyager's eyes from harsh UV rays at high altitudes. Up here, he is safe from predators, but the precarious ledges he must traverse are what is most worrisome. At last, the water. The Voyager's color palette is designed to camouflage with his surrounding environment. His jaw-paw's stealth soul allows him to move effortlessly through the terrain, while the drainage system keeps his feet dry as the wind grows cold. A rare moment of serenity for this ever-traveling adventurer. Safety is never certain, but for now, the Voyager must stay warm and sleep with one eye open. As day breaks, the Voyager reappears, seeking high ground. Gauging the wind and surveying the land, the Voyager knows he must once again fulfill his purpose.
What up? What up? How y'all doing? Just wanted to reach out to y'all real quick. I promised there would be videos for how to kill yourself. It's coming, June 5th. It's less than, 2 months away? Something like that. I'm recovering from South by. It was good. I partied hard, but more importantly, I made some really good connections. Crypto space. I'll be talking to y'all about that a little bit more as time goes on. But I just wrote a really important chapter today that really, stuck with me, how I was feeling, hit the root of who I am and where I am, if you will. And it was called Solo Alone. And it kind of touched on a lot of the concepts of Project Newsense and going on your own journey and creating opportunities, either yourself or through relationships, a couple key relationships or whatnot. I just want everybody to know that there's somebody out there who really needs to hear this, and I realize that sometimes shit gets hard, and not in a traditional sense like, hey, I'm running low on funds, or I'm running low on time, or whatever the case may be, or I hate my job, all that stuff. That sucks, and that's just like bumps and bruises. I'm talking about those moments when you're like low on motivation. Why am I doing this shit? When you take that step back, when you have that one bad day, you feel me? For me, it happens like once every 2 months or so. And I just have a really rough day where I start thinking a lot about those things. I think a lot about what I'm not doing, what I haven't accomplished, the the path that I'm on and if it makes sense or not and what the hell I'm doing with my life. More or less. It gets deep, man, and I'm going to expound on that a little bit more. But not right now. Right now, I just want y'all to realize that, this is a real thing. It's really part of the journey. It really is. Being mentally tough, having that, building that part up, that's a really important part to have built up. And I fought with it. I fought with it for a long time. I had to go the long route to get to where I'm at right now. And I want to try to not give you shortcuts or hacks or anything like that. That's not the key. But I want to lay out the roadmap so that when you get to where you're going and you experience some of these things, you can look back and say, all right, yeah, Jordan told me about that. I'm not going to bug out because I've already heard about this. This isn't nothing new, and I think that's a really big part of entrepreneurship. So, man, I feel really good about it. I'm hoping y'all can take something from this and be blessed. How to Kill Yourself is coming, man. I'm nervous as hell because it's some philosophy that's really near and dear to my heart. It's deep, it's penetrating, and I hope it comes off that way, through text, the way that I've experienced it. So, anyways, man, y'all be well, y'all be blessed. More videos coming. Peace. Hey, it's me. I just wanted to hit y'all up real quick to discuss being prepared versus being ready. Preparation is kind of one of those things that we have some kind of authority over. You get to pick how prepared you are. And your preparedness has a lot to do with you understanding the factors that need to go into your decision-making process. Being ready, though, is kind of like a sense of well-being. It's like a good feeling that you have everything ready to come against whatever obstacle you might face, right? But let's be honest and let's be truthful about it. We never know all the obstacles that we're going to face. We never know exactly 100%, because as soon as we put ourselves in that position of thinking that we know, we get thrown a curveball, and we're not ready for that. But you can prepare. You can prepare yourself to deal with changing circumstances. You can prepare yourself to be ready to adjust. And so I want everybody to feel good about that and understand that the only way for you to be ready for that type of thing, the only way for you to prepare yourself for changing circumstances in business and life and creative endeavors and anything that you're doing is really through understanding principles, digging into natural principles, digging into different processes, understanding those like the back of your hand so that you can apply them in various circumstances. I had a friend of mine recently having issues with her job, and she's really going through it, and that sucks, but at the same time, she was aware that she was going to have to do this eventually. So she could have been preparing. She probably never would have been ready, so to speak, for the adjustment because it's outside of our comfort zones. So that's the difference. Prepare for things that are outside of your comfort zone, things that you would never be ready for anyways, right? And then whenever it comes that day where you have to make that shift, through being prepared, it'll be a little smoother than it is whenever you don't prepare at all. So anyways, man, I just want everybody to take those words of wisdom, use them as you may, be prepared, fuck being ready. What up, world? Back again. Just wanted to check in with everybody. It was Easter weekend last weekend. Had a great time. Friends, family, all that good stuff. Just kind of wanted to throw a little bit out there for what I've observed. Was able to ground myself and remember why I'm doing all this stuff. Also, kind of relate a couple of chapters from the book to the experience I had there. Knowing that I have family members, cousins, friends, people like that are kind of seeing what I'm doing. Not to say that it's all about me or what I'm doing, but they're paying attention, and maybe they'll be able to find in this process of me creating How to Kill Yourself, releasing How to Kill Yourself, once they read it and getting a feel for what the content is all about, as a whole, push their life forward. Because at the end of the day, it is about, getting the resources and also growing. But more importantly, I feel, and you guys will see this philosophy talked about time and time again, that you do grow your resources, you do grow your earning potential once you actually grow to a certain extent. So I've experienced that growth for sure here in Austin. Reimagine what it is to be an entrepreneur, reimagine what it is to be successful, an understanding of what all those things are. And honestly, How to Kill Yourself is a combination of things. It's I'm 31 now. Me when I was 25, that first leap of faith, trying to get something started. I go through that, but I'm also going to talk a lot about the second go around and what it's looking like so far, and what it means. So hopefully give you guys an inside look before the success. So often in our culture, we talk about what it looks like after you've made it. Hey, I'm winning, I'm stunting, I'm this guy, I'm that guy, I'm better than this person, all that good stuff. Braggadocious is kind of where our culture pushed everybody to believe that's how you had to be. That's where the true victory lies, but that's not true. The truth is, you got to become a better man to be the better man. You become better at achieving whatever goal you have in order to reach a true form of success. So I'm going to give you guys my take on that, but I also know and feel very firmly that it's bulletproof and you can apply a lot of this shit. There's not a lot of mentors left. There's not a lot of examples left out here. There's a whole lot of distraction that's hitting us via Facebook, IG, Snap, all that shit. But there's not a lot of people who want to actually help push forward. I experienced that when I was 25, a long ass time ago, right? All the way up until this point, lack of mentors, lack of people who come from my culture. There's a lot of people who are saying, hey, I did this, hey, I achieved these things, but not a lot of people talking about the in between. There's a journey between being broke and being rich or wealthy or whatever you want to call it. There is this big gray space that looms, it's like a question mark. So I'm going to address that for y'all. And please look at the Prekill, look at the blog, projectnewsense.com, look at the IG. I post mostly on my personal IG. That's Jordan Hill, JORDAAANHILL. That's my IG handle. Holler at me, man. We're going to win. I promise that. Hey, it's me. I just wanted to hit y'all up real quick to discuss being prepared versus being ready. Preparation is kind of one of those things that we have some kind of authority over. You get to pick how prepared you are. And your preparedness has a lot to do with you understanding the factors that need to go into your decision-making process. Being ready, though, is kind of like a sense of well-being. It's like a good feeling that you have everything ready to come against whatever obstacle you might face, right? But let's be honest and let's be truthful about it. We never know all the obstacles that we're going to face. We never know exactly 100%, because as soon as we put ourselves in that position of thinking that we know, we get thrown a curveball, and we're not ready for that. But you can prepare You can prepare yourself to deal with changing circumstances. You can prepare yourself to be ready to adjust. And so I want everybody to feel good about that and understand that the only way for you to be ready for that type of thing, the only way for you to prepare yourself for changing circumstances in business and life and creative endeavors and anything that you're doing is really through understanding principles, digging into natural principles, digging into different processes, understanding those like the back of your hand so that you can apply them in various circumstances. I had a friend of mine recently having issues with her job, and she's really going through it, and that sucks, but at the same time, she was aware that she was going to have to do this eventually. So she could have been preparing. She probably never would have been ready, so to speak, for the adjustment because it's outside of our comfort zones. So that's the difference. Prepare for things that are outside of your comfort zone, things that you would never be ready for anyways, right? And then whenever it comes that day where you have to make that shift, through being prepared, it'll be a little smoother than it is whenever you don't prepare at all. So anyways, man, I just want everybody to take those words of wisdom, use them as you may, be prepared, fuck being ready.